We thought we were lucky. A 2-bedroom cabin in the middle of Whisperwood Glen for half its market value. My partner Lane said the trees felt peaceful. That should have been my first red flag, because the woods don't feel peaceful. They feel silent, and silence is something else entirely. We signed the papers in town, quaint little place with more wood carvings than smiles. The realtor barely made eye contact. When I asked about the previous owners, she only said out of didn't last. Then she passed us the keys like she was handing off a curse she didn't want to carry anymore. The first day felt too quiet, no birds, just wind in the pines and the distant groan of old floorboards settling into our presence. Lane said it was atmospheric, romantic. He lit candles. I checked the locks. Twice. There were strange things around the property. A half-buried ring of carved stones circling the cabin like forgotten teeth. We thought they were old boundary markers, but one was cracked clean through. It made me uneasy, like we were trespassing on something ancient that no longer had patience for apologies. That night it started. A low sound like an animal growl swallowed by distance. Not close, not far, just waiting. Lane was already asleep. I lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to the walls breathe, listening to the walls breathe back. The next morning I found claw marks on the side of the cabin, deep ones, not raccoon, not bear. I'm not city soft, I know what normal wildlife looks like. This wasn't that. These gouges looked purposeful, like a warning. Lane said it was probably teenagers or some sick prank, but the scratches were too high, something tall, something angry. I laughed it off, pretended I believed him, but the truth had already burrowed under my skin. Later, when we unpacked boxes in the basement, Lane found a box tucked behind the water heater. Inside, a leather-bound journal, moldy and crumbling, handwritten in tight loops. The first line said, "If you found this, the stones have already been disturbed. I am so sorry, I didn't sleep that night." I just stared out the window as the wind howled through the trees. But, around 2:11 a.m. the wind stopped, and something else howled instead. Would you stay if you heard that howl too? By morning, the trees looked the same, but I didn't. There's something about hearing a howl like that one that starts human and ends like bone snapping that changes your threshold for denial. I went outside, boots crunching through frost pine needles, and followed the sound's direction. Not far from the cabin, I found footprints, huge ones, bipedal, barefoot, but with claws, not the 5-pronged kind you'd see in the woods. These were wrong. The toes were too long. The spacing was all off, like something caught between predator and man. A half thought they circled the cabin. Lane said I was imagining things, that I was letting the cabin get to me, but he hadn't seen the tracks, or the smear of blood on the porch railing, or the tuft of fur wedged in the splinters. He just wanted to hang the lanterns we'd bought. But I noticed he locked the doors tighter that night. We tried to read more of the journal. Most of the pages were warped ink bleeding into mildew veins. But the second entry was legible, dated 15 years ago. She told me he only comes when the stones are broken, that if we step into his claim during blood moon season, we forfeit the right to safety. I told her we didn't believe in those stories. She only said, "Then you'll die in disbelief." That night, the woods sang again, not with birds, those had long gone silent, but with rustling, breathing, pacing. At 2:11 a.m., like clockwork, the howl came again, but this time, it didn't come from the woods. It came from the left window, and Lane wasn't in bed. I found him in the hallway, staring through the curtain. He didn't say anything, just stood there, barefoot on the cold wooden floor, frozen like prey. When I touched his shoulder, he finally spoke, just to one line. "He knows I'm here now." He wouldn't elaborate. The next day, Lane was different, twitchy, forgetful. He said he'd gone outside the night before to check the noise but didn't remember coming back in. His shirt sleeve was torn. His neck had a 3 ridged lines. He said he fell, but I found another journal entry ripped and shoved inside a wall vent behind the old furnace. It was addressed to whoever tries to stay here next. Don't let him see you bleed. If the blood hits the stone, he takes it as a pact. I looked at Lane's shirt again. It had dried blood near the cuff. I asked him again what happened. He said, "I think I saw someone, but it looked like me. Would you forgive someone who vanished covered in blood?" Lane always used to hum when he was shaving. Not anymore. By the third night, the mirror had started lying, or maybe telling the truth. I woke up to sounds from the bathroom, guttural noises, not groaning, not quite, like something trying to hold its breath while its bones rearranged. Lane stood there shirtless, staring into the mirror, fingers twitching. His skin looked tight, veins crawling like something underneath was trying to push its way out. His back twitched like he was suppressing spasms. The worst part, he was smiling. When I called his name, he didn't flinch, just pressed his hand against the mirror like he didn't recognize what was looking back. "Do I look taller to you?" he asked. I lied and said no. He laughed, but it didn't reach his eyes. That night, I couldn't sleep. I read more from the journal. It mentioned the claiming again, a warning. The glyph is carved at birth. The transformation begins when the host returns to the soil of their origin. Lane was born upstate, but his grandfather, he grew up right here, in this forest, and we'd found a name carved in the cabin's original foundation. Eli Varna. Lane's middle name is Eli. I tested a theory, laid an old razor on the counter while Lane was brushing his teeth, turned my back. When I looked again, the blade was missing. His gums were bleeding. He said it was nothing. That day I followed the trail beyond the edge of our property, deep into the woods. There was a circle of stones moss-covered, ancient, and partially broken. In the center, claw marks, and fur, black fur, still warm. The glyphs from the journal were there too, etched into the base of a rotted tree. One of them was fresh. I didn't dare touch it, but I recognized it. The same one had been drawn on the fogged-up bathroom mirror the night before. That night, the transformation started. Lane woke up screaming, clutching his chest. Then his mouth opened wider than any human mouth should. His shoulders jerked back, his arms convulsed like strings were being pulled from the inside. He begged me to leave, but I couldn't. His skin ripped down the spine clean like a zip, patches of coarse gray fur. His fingers twisted, dislocating as claws tore through his nail beds. He punched the wall so hard it cracked the plaster and didn't bleed. He looked at me, eyes glowing yellow, no longer afraid, just hungry. He said only one thing: he's awake now. Then he ran on all fours straight through the front door. He didn't open it, he broke it. I waited until morning to leave. I thought he might come back, but instead, I found the final journal entry, folded beneath the floorboards under Lane's side of the bed. You cannot love someone who has already changed. You can only mourn who they were. If they run into the woods, let them go. If they return, it's not them anymore. It's what the glyph made them remember. Some secrets claw their way back out. Share if this one hit you. The glyph isn't just a symbol. It's a memory trap. It doesn't protect the cabin, it binds it to him. The werewolf next door, the one whose name was never written, only whispered. And the closer I got to understanding it, the more I realized this wasn't just Lane's story. It was mine, too. Back at the stone circle, I tried something reckless. I poured salt around the age-old folklore trick and placed the journal pages inside. A test. If the wind didn't blow them away, the glyph still held sway. They didn't move. The trees around the circle leaned slightly inward. That's not poetic language, they actually tilted toward the stones. I checked the level. They were warped by something old, something hungry. In the cellar, behind a false wall, I found the Varna family sigil, a twisted symbol of a wolf biting its own tail etched in rusted silver, and below it, a contract, scrawled in blood. The blood right binds the chosen to the Watcher. So long as a Varna bleeds on ancestral ground, the Watcher remains confined to its claim. But should the bond be broken by betrayal, the beast becomes heir. That's when I realized the truth. Lane wasn't bitten, he inherited the curse. His grandfather must have bound the beast here and the glyph kept it dormant. Lane's return, his wound, his blood. It reactivated the pact, and now the thing next door, the neighbor, was no longer just a story whispered around campfires. It was the thing keeping Lane alive and feeding off him. Night by night, I confronted Lane, if you could still call him that. He sat shirtless in the living room, skin mottled with fur beneath the surface. Glyphs carved into his forearms, not fresh, branded. He said it had always watched through generations, that the Watcher wasn't some rogue werewolf but a curse keeper, bound by blood and betrayal. And now it was Lane's turn to take its place. Unless we undid the pact, but that meant offering a new heir. The Watcher didn't want freedom, it wanted legacy. One of us had to take the glyph, cut the bloodline, and seal the cabin from within. I told Lane I'd do it. He refused. He said the curse knew my blood wasn't old enough, that only a Varna could bear the brand. Only someone born to it could die with it. That's when I understood what the glyph demanded. Sacrifice. Not love, not pity, not redemption. Just blood. Would you betray one to save many? You always think it'll be a scream, but when it began, it wasn't. It was laughter, soft, wet, like something chewing on the joke of being alive. I sealed Lane in the cellar just before dusk. He begged me not to light the candles, not to draw attention, said the glyphs lose power when watched, said it could sense fear like breath on glass. But something changed the moment the sun dipped behind the trees. The blood moon cracked the sky open like an infected eye and something inside the cabin blinked back. The lights went out, not flickered, snapped. Then came the sounds, not from the cellar, from outside, dragging claws across the wood siding, snuffling through the cracks. Not one voice, two, the Watcher, and Lane. No, not Lane, not anymore. I should have run. The instinct was primal, but so was the pull. I grabbed the silver hatchet we found in the barn and moved toward the back door. Something crashed through the kitchen window. It wasn't Lane, it was her, the woman from the journal, the missing Varna heir. Skin stretched, cracked, claws on reverse-jointed arms. Her eyes remembered, but her mouth had no room for mercy. She wore the glyph carved across her chest like a locket. She didn't attack. She watched. Behind her, the fog bled in through the trees, moonlit red, alive, pulsing like breath. That's when the scratching from the cellar turned to pounding. No voice, just force. The door shook, the wood bent. And Lane, if that was Lane, roared something in a language older than words. The woman stepped aside. She was letting him out. Why? Not to kill me, to witness, to make me the new seal. I ran upstairs, clutching the silver hatchet, my lungs burning. Every door in the house was ajar, every window mirrored something just slightly off. Furniture upside down, my own reflection smiling. This wasn't a cabin anymore. It was a feeding ground, ritual site, throne. I found the glyph again on the bedroom floor, freshly drawn, in my handwriting, and below it, my own name. That's when the ceiling cracked. The howl came from above, not the cellar. Lane was on the roof. I turned, silver raised, but it was too late. He dropped through the attic crawl space like an angel of meat and fur, eyes gone, mouth full of memory, and he stopped inches from me. His claw hovered over my chest, just above where the glyph pulsed, and then he hesitated, because I wasn't the offering. The house wanted him, and he knew it. He dropped the claw, pressed it to his own chest and whispered, "Mark me, if you've heard the howl. Subscribe, you're already marked." I struck. The hatchet hit flesh, but not Lane's. It hit the floorboards. At the last second, something stopped me. Not compassion, not doubt, recognition. The glyphs weren't meant to repel. They were meant to choose. The seal never bound the beast. It marked the bearer of the burden. Lane's clawed hand closed around mine, guiding the blade downward into the floor where a blood groove opened like a mouth and drank it whole. The house shuddered. Above us, the moon pulsed, closer than it should have been, breathing, waiting. The watcher stepped through the ruined window, eyes never blinking, her body half smoke now, flesh loosening like ash from bone. She knelt, not to Lane. To me, I felt the heat before the pain. The glyph on the floor flared, then mirrored itself onto my chest, searing into skin. It wasn't just a mark, it was a map, a pathway. Suddenly I saw it like memory flooding backwards, a chain of glyph bearers stretching through centuries. Each one chosen by the glyph, each one betrayed by someone they loved, each one left in a cursed house under a cursed moon with a single choice: become the seal, or become the beast. Lane spoke not in growls now, but words. His voice was human again. "This place doesn't trap the monster," he said. "It makes sure the monster has someone to return to." I looked at him, truly looked. His eyes flickered between gold and gray. The glyph on his chest had faded, transferred. He was free, and I was marked. The choice was no longer theoretical. I could leave this place and let the Watcher take form, let the curse spread again, town after town, body after body, or I could stay, carve the glyphs into fresh wood, let the beast rise each blood moon, keep it contained, one night at a time, forever. The cabin wasn't cursed because it housed a monster. It was cursed because someone always chose to stay. Lane backed toward the door, trembling. "I broke the pact once," he said. "You can fix it." I didn't answer. Instead, I walked to the cellar, where fresh wood waited, and a knife, not silver, carving wood, not flesh. Lane paused at the threshold. "I can help you for a while, until it forgets your scent." I smiled. "You already did. One howl, one chance. Will they make the right choice?" Most months, the woods are quiet. The glyphs hum on the walls now, not bright, not loud, just enough to remind me they're still alive, that it's still alive. Sometimes, I wonder if I'm just talking to myself. I leave voice memos in case someone else comes, in case she calls again. Lane hasn't returned, not since the third moon. I don't blame him. The longer you stay here, the less you remember your life before it. The memories go soft around the edges, like wet paper, but I still carve, still seal the lines, still count the days. Because when the sky turns red again, and the trees begin to lean toward the house like they're listening, I know what's coming. The scratching, not loud, not outside, inside. It's not always the same shape. Sometimes it's a woman in furs with a voice like rust. Sometimes a boy with too many teeth and no eyes. Once, it looked like my own mother, snarling lullabies. It wears people, or maybe it remembers them too well. Either way, the seal holds, but only if I'm here to finish the circle. And the thing about circles is they don't end. They trap, they spin, and they pull. The Watcher doesn't whisper anymore. She waits, and I dream of a night when I stop carving, of letting it free, of becoming the howl instead of holding it back. But then I remember what Lane said before he vanished. "You don't stay here to save people. You stay here to stop yourself." So I stay, because someone has to. The pact was never broken. Just waiting. Like, share, and subscribe. Because next time, the howl may come for your street, and for those who hunger for more. Step deeper into the shadows with our ultimate werewolf horror playlist linked in the description below. In the world of horror, the scariest things happen when you least expect them, and trust me, you don't want to be left in the dark. Welcome to the darkness.